Welcome to the 80-20 Baseball Podcast. Strike! The 80-20 Coaching Masterclass. Our weekly get-together where coaches go from new to good and good to great. Mastering the fundamentals and the art of coaching.
Welcome, youth baseball coaches, parents, players. Welcome to our weekly get-together. This week, we are going to talk hitting, including 2 tips that many hitters don't do at the youth level, but could improve regardless of their ability or experience level. So we'll dive into both of those tips today. Now, baseball is a seasonal sport for most coaches, parents, players. There's an off season, there's some dead time. But waiting as coaches till just before the next season to improve our coaching skills can definitely leave us scrambling to improve our coaching toolbox, our skills, our mindset, our paradigm. So for that reason, this podcast is a year-round, once a week get-together where we can truly build and optimize our coaching skills even during the off season. I try to keep all the episodes fast-paced and efficient so they're easy to take in each week. One more thing before we dive into our 2 hitting tips. I have a couple interviews scheduled to take place soon. And as soon as those are ready, I will share them with all of you, of course. And they should be really good, very informative, helping us to be more successful coaches. All right, tip number 1. This has to do with hitting. I received a question a few weeks ago from a coach, somebody who's been coaching a long time, played college baseball, knows the game very well. And the question was, hey, Coach Bo, how can I help my players more consistently be on time for the pitch? It seems like quite a few of my hitters are behind. They can't catch up to the pitch. The pitch has crossed the plate, and then the swing comes through the hitting zone after that. Of course, this could be a lot of different things. Sometimes we have to look very closely to make sure it is a timing thing and not a swing path, bat to ball skill set issue. And of course, there are other reasons that hitters don't hit the baseball when they swing. And there are a variety of reasons behind why hitters are late on a pitch. Here's a tip that can help one of the main issues that I see at the youth baseball level, and even somewhat through the high school level. A hitter's load, their load, the movement they do as the pitcher's pitching the ball, the movement they do that is not part of the swing going forward. Any extra movement or anything they do before their swing starts towards the hitting zone should have minimal to no movement backward. Every kid will be a little different on this, but picture this. The hitter's up there ready to hit. The pitcher starts his delivery. You'll see a lot of hitters push their hands back. They'll move their body back. They'll start to lean back a little bit towards the catcher, towards the umpire, not back towards the dugout, but back towards the backstop. Some hitters quite a bit. They'll really push their hands, and even worse, they'll move their whole body back. All of this movement backward is excess, unnecessary movement. It may not be something that you can completely get rid of with every hitter, nor should you try to. But with those hitters that have a lot of movement backward to start their swing, you should really try to run them through some T-drill work, some short toss work, and then to live pitching work where they are simply just going from a starting point and everything goes forward. There's no movement backward. Again, this is not the only reason hitters will find themselves consistently behind the pitch, not being able to catch up to a pitch. There are other reasons, absolutely. But this is one that should be worked on because eventually it needs to go. At most, it should be a very small movement backward, just a slight rhythm movement, just to get some rhythm maybe into the swing. Ideally, when a hitter swings, all the movement should be forward, not back toward the catcher, toward the umpire, toward the backstop. Hitters shouldn't have a big load backward. And you'll see this. Sometimes it's because their feet start too far apart. So they load up backwards. You'll see this with pitchers too. In fact, it's almost identical with pitching, this aspect. I even have a video on the website, 8020baseball.com, that discusses this specific thing with pitchers, not going backward. Everything should be going forward. Now with pitching, it's not so much of a timing thing as a momentum and a balance issue, which could lead to a timing issue at release point, but that's a different type of timing. Because pitchers, of course, are not going off the hitter. The hitter's going off of the pitcher in terms of timing up the pitcher. Pitchers don't time up the hitters. So look at your hitters, and if they have a lot of movement backward, let's look to reduce this. A little bit's fine, but I would practice with a tee, short toss, having them swing just 100% forward. Wherever their hands are at, wherever their body's at, when that pitch is released, that toss, or when they go to swing on the tee, everything is forward. I'd recommend videotaping them for 10 swings and have them evaluate it. Or if you have a kid with less patience, do 5 swings. Videotape all 5 swings from the side. The best is from the open side, so you can see the front of the hitter. So for left-handed hitters, this would be the third base side of the batter's box. And of course, for right-handed hitters, the first base side of the batter's box. You want that ideally straight on, not at an offset angle. So it's easy to assess how much movement backward there is. And then have the hitter look at it and say, hey, how many out of these 5 swings did you have extra or a lot of movement backward? Or you could even say any movement backward, depending on the hitter. I would start with tee work, telling hitters just to swing straight towards the ball. Everything needs to be right toward the ball, no extra or excessive movement in any other direction. Even if your hitter right now isn't behind a lot of pitches, maybe they just have a really fast bat, they're strong, they're more developed than the other kids with their strength, they can handle the bat. Maybe they're just really good with their bat to ball skills. Maybe they have a short swing. It's still something to consider coaching up, because eventually there's a high likelihood that they'll get exposed with all this extra excessive movement. When the velocity ticks up, the pitchers have great breaking balls. It's something that should be ironed out as early as possible, and definitely with those hitters that are consistently behind the pitch. Those are the hitters I would work on this immediately with. The other hitters, I would just keep it in the back of your mind, maybe make a note of it to coach up in a few years. So on the topic of hitting, I did some digging on Baseball Savant. Baseball Savant's connected with MLB.com, and they have a cool graph, which I posted on X, but I wanted to talk about in a little more detail here. They have a graph of the batter's box, an image for every hitter, and the image shows their foot placement, both their right and left feet, where they are at the start of the swing and where the feet finish at the end of the swing. Now, the interesting thing, this was the only commonality that I saw amongst all the top hitters. Now, what I simply did was I took who were the top 10 highest producing hitters at the time. I used weighted runs created plus, but you can use OPS. They are very closely related, and OPS is something any youth baseball coach can quickly do, and it's already built into many things like Game Changer and the other options out there. Essentially, what are the top 10 hitters when it comes to producing runs? What do they do? Some have open stances, some have closed stances, some of them have wide stances, some of them have narrow stances. Some of them, their feet point in a little bit. Some have their feet pointing outward a little bit. Some of them are on the plate. They crowd the plate. Some of them are off the plate. The one thing that 9 of the 10 hitters did, and the only exception was Kyle Schwarber, and he's a different animal. He is one of those just truly gifted swing artists. He's just truly gifted with his swing. So we have to be careful because his bat speed and his ability, he's just a blessed hitter, uber gifted. The other 9 hitters of the top 10 all did this one thing. The one thing they all had in common outside of Schwarber, and he wasn't that far from where the rest of them were at. They all had their back foot touching that back line of the batter's box, the back line nearest the catcher. They were as far back in the box as they could be. Some of them had over half of their foot outside of the batter's box. Some crowd the plate, some are off the plate, some have open stances, some have closed stances, some have their feet pointing out, some pointing in, some neutral, some are wide, some are narrow. But 9 out of 10, outside of the freak anomaly, all had their back foot on the line. They all have different swings with their hands, where they start their hands, their bat angle, their leg kick, their leg lift. There's a wide variety of things all these hitters do in those areas too. But they all had their foot on the back line. Why? To give themselves more time to decide if it's a pitch they should swing at or not. Often we think of getting in the back of the box as being able to catch up to the fastball. Pitcher throws hard, we need to move back in the box. A lot of times we think of this as a single thing that has one factor involved. Does a pitcher throw hard or not? But this is not how we should look at it. And definitely as hitters get to a level where the pitchers start throwing more breaking balls, changeups, off-speed pitches. Getting in the back of the box is as much about improving our swing decisions. It takes the least amount of time to coach it. It's much easier to coach up set positions, like setup positions, than it is to coach up movements while the swing is taking place, or while the pitching delivery is taking place, or while a fielder's trying to field a ground ball at full speed. Setup positions are much easier to adjust because, of course, the player's not moving at the time the adjustment needs to be made. Time constraints are not really much of an issue. Now, I have a good article on 8020baseball.com that breaks this down, moving back in the box. It's titled More Time, Better Hitters. The great Ted Williams said, number one thing a hitter must do is swing at the right pitches. Move back in the box. It's like having more time on a test. And remember, hitting is a hundredth of a second thing. So an extra foot and a half can make a huge difference. Now, if you go to 8020baseball.com, you can see the one exception to this rule of having all the hitters move to the back of the box. There is one exception. There's one time to consider not doing this. And you can read that at 8020baseball.com. Hey, I know a handful of you coaches were over on 8020baseball.com this past week and got that free drill design guide. It lays out how to assess, break down, and design optimal drills. This is something you can't find anywhere else. I didn't get it from anywhere else. It was built organically with decades of drill design, assessment, trial and error, iteration after iteration. And you can get it free, 8020baseball.com, right there on the homepage, the drill design guide. Grab that. And next week, I'm going to share with all of you what a vice president of a major league scouting department said was the number one trait/characteristic he uses to predict long-term success in baseball or any sport. So we'll talk about that in the next episode. And I'll share a message, a tip that will help us every single time we are around our team, every time we are around our players. This is a tip that will help us, guaranteed. That'll be next week. Look forward to having you all back next week for our weekly get-together. Until then, let's keep taking care of our health so we can be at our best for our families, our close friends, our players. All right, y'all take care. Until next week, adios.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Podcast, the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. We got this. Now, let's take the field.